I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio World.
Went over a friend's house to eat, and the food just ain't no good.
Generational wealth. Generational wealth. Generational wealth. What is generational wealth? We asked our communities, and this is what they had to say.
Generational wealth to me means to provide and establish wealth for generations to come, whether it be through real estate or through other equitable funding.
Personally, it helps to work with a trusted financial professional to guide and steer you, because you're going to be making some decisions around how you spend your money, how you save your money, how you invest your money. Some of that will be strictly to increase size of your wealth. Other parts of those investments might be something that you want to do that's key to your purpose and your character. And you can manage to do both.
This campaign to create awareness to generational wealth is brought to you by the Department of Neighborhood's Generational Wealth Initiative, the Washington Housing Finance Commission, and Rainier Avenue Radio World.
Different rules apply when it gets this late. You know what I mean? It's like after hours.
Whatever gets you through the night.
Hello, I'm an unpaid spokesman for DJ Sotovaci. I'd like to invite you to listen to his free-form music show. It's popular music the way it was never intended to be heard. Whatever gets you through the night, late nights, here on Rainier Avenue Radio World.
Whatever gets you through the night.
Join Rainier Avenue Radio from 5 to midnight for Sunday evening sound sessions. Jazz from the cabinets, from Big Poppy.
That's right. It's time once again. Jazz from the cabinets. Poppy.
Sergio LaCour's Love Line.
It's Sergio's Love Lines with Sergio LaCour. Go to the phone line. Tell her who we talking to.
Sage Prince, Just My Opinion.
This is Sage, and that's just about going to do it for the first half of Just My Opinion.
K-Fox Night Beat with Nasty Nets Rodriguez.
The beat of the Fox. K-Fox Night Beat, Nasty Nets.
You know what? You're going to listen from 5 to midnight. Just turn it on and don't stop. DJ Alibaba, the underground surround sound start time. Paul Pincher.
Tuning in, my name is Paul Pearson.
Sunday evening sound sessions on Rainier Avenue Radio. Trust me, you'll be listening the entire time from 5 to mid Sunday evening. Your sound session on Rainier Avenue Radio.
Do you want to reach out to the Vietnamese community in Seattle? Just advertise in Le Viet Tây Bắc, that is Northwest Vietnamese News, the longest running Vietnamese language newspaper in our region. Go to nvnorthwest.com.
You are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio,
your community radio station.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Juan, Cotto, and Mick Hoffman, the executive director of the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association, touching bases with you live from your community radio station at the headquarters of Rainier Avenue Radio at 4916 Rainier Avenue South. We hope you are doing well, and it is an opportunity for us to have our WIAA Primetime conversation. Mick, I have a high schooler at home now. He is 16 years old. He is unloading a truck very early in the morning. Then he's going to scamper up to football practice. Summer activities. He's got Russian math coming up. So it is definitely summer in the Cotto house. And Mick, the end of school year brings the opportunity to kind of sit back and look, wow, how fast did the year go? And you think about high school athletics and the role that the WIAA plays. How would you characterize how the year went?
Yeah, I thought the year went really well for us. Our focus this year, we have some in-house core covenants, we call them. Mm-hmm. And one of them was innovations. And so, you know, for 95% of the 225,000 participants, this is the last competitive experience that they get in organized sports. And we want to create some lifetime memories. So by making it special, like how can we, coaches do that for them, schools do that for them, the fans do it, what can we do to add to that? So we came up with some innovations, and our staff, they hit it out of the park. So they did some really cool stuff that brought a lot of good energy, highlighted on social media through the year. And so we reflected on that today in our last staff meeting before we kind of break camp and people start finally using some vacation time up as well. So yeah, it was a good year. It was a fun year. We have great staff, people really gelling, working hard together. And you can work hard, you can play hard. If you like each other, it's a lot easier. And, we're very fortunate to have those kind of people in our office.
Well, great people produce great moments, and we know if you listen to this show the last couple of years, WIAA is loaded with great people and people support Mick Hoffman. Before we delve into this week's show, and the show is going to be looking at the future, a couple of things I want to make available to you on your community radio station. We have Make Music Day. Make Music Day this Friday at Columbia City Theater starting at 12 noon, high noon. If you, I think one of the great things about our community is the fact that we've had so many famous musicians, starting with Quincy Jones, and then that group of incredible folks over at Garfield High School many years ago. But the live music performances all day long. Music has always been an important part. It has been the sound through the Rainier Valley, and we hope you're going to get a chance to listen to some of those performances. That's going to be Make Music Day at the Columbia City Theater right here. That's going to start at 12 noon. Saturday, we are broadcasting live from the Atlantic Street Center's Juneteenth celebration, and so much history to be shared with Juneteenth and Rainier Avenue Radio. And Tony Benton is going to cover that in a very intellectual way, in a very spiritual way, and a way that really touches our community. And that's going to be starting from 1 to 3 at the Atlantic Street Center. Many of you know that's over in Atlantic Street near the I-90 freeway over there in central Seattle. So please take some time to enjoy those events, share in the community, and learn a little bit, learn and be a part of your community that's gone through some challenges here recently. But nevertheless, we are here to support it, and that's what we do at Rainier Avenue Radio. We're going to be talking about the future of high school athletics in Washington State, and we will quiz Mick Hoffman with a few questions in regards to, obviously, we talk about the issues that go on during the year. We talk about the administrative issues. We really focus on things that we believe are the paramount pillars of working within a sports organization and providing this opportunity for the youth of our community. But now we're going to really look back and take a look at where this is going and how these different things evolve, as Mick alluded to with his staff meeting today. And as we look at the future, what are some of the key trends and developments that you anticipate in high school athletics in Washington State over the next, let's say, over the next 5 years to a decade?
Yeah, in the last few years coming out of COVID, we've had, it's been interesting to watch school boards.
Mm-hmm.
School boards used to be local individuals who were really involved with schools that wanted to come in and help provide some guidance. And we've really seen, certain segments, groups use those as a way to push political platforms. And so, one of the trends I anticipate is that's going to continue, especially with national elections coming up, presidential election. Depending on how this one goes, what it could be like in 4 years. And so it really creates more confrontation than cooperation around topics, but it also brings our students in the middle of that. So there's bad with that, because last thing we want is people not getting funding for opportunities because of politics. But the good news is it brings it to the forefront locally, where then sports has a way of bringing the community together. And it doesn't matter, you go to a Mare game, go to a Seahawks game, go to a Sounders game, go to a Storm game. You're going to have people after a win, everybody's high-fiving.
Boy.
Right? And they're not asking what political party you are or what your stance is on any of the controversial topics. So I think sports, high school sports especially, has the opportunity, a trend in the next few years will hopefully to hold communities together while we wrestle with some of these social topics that we're continuing to wrestle with. So I think high school sports is going to play a critical role in community culture and development over the next few years. That's a real global look at it. As far as the nuts and bolts of it, our school districts, especially those with some financial challenges right now, it's going to be really interesting to see if we can maintain the level of participation. And the problem when we start cutting funding, especially for students who either didn't have the chance because of finances as youngsters, or just be culturally they weren't assimilated into the United States. They don't have an access point in, and so they never get to experience it. And so much of our culture, right, wrong, or indifferent around sports. So, one trend that will be interesting if we can maintain funding, so access for all students. We have 225,000 students. And then the other one we're dealing with directly, two of them. One, we've talked about the transgender athlete and how that will evolve into, do we stay where we're at? Do we move to a modified position? Do we move to an opposite extreme based on laws and interpretation of those laws? As we continue to see court cases going through the courts, there are just some more decisions around the recent Department of Education guidance around adding more protected classes and how those got struck down in some federal courts, supported in others. So politics has definitely entered our world. Transfers have entered our world with what's going on. We're really the last place that communities are coming together in the middle of a debate around social issues. And so I think we're going to see that for quite a few more years.
The political spectrum, and obviously I've been involved in that for so many years. Let me ask you this question: Is there ever a sense that the politics sometimes, especially when it's brought to the level of the school board, which is usually nonpartisan, but now we realize that there is no more nonpartisan.
Yeah.
Does it really hurt? Are there circumstances where it actually makes it worse?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, right now we have some schools, either private schools or even some public schools, that specifically around the gender identity, transgender athlete, that are saying, well, what happens if we pass a resolution against it? Well, nothing for us.
Right.
You make your political statement. Your attorneys might be a little nervous if you ever have a discrimination lawsuit against you as potential evidence, that you pass a resolution that violates. We understand people have their opinions. But the one that would impact them with the WIAA is if they don't renew their membership, because only member schools can compete against member schools. If you choose not to be a member because you don't like the WIAA rule on gender identity, or you don't like it on transfers, or you don't like it on classification, you can go play still, but you just can't play any schools that have chosen. And, somebody could come and start running state tournaments, I suppose, and do all that. Or they could go back to like COVID and have a league championship if an entire community wants to do it. We've had clusters of schools talk about that, and no one's wanted to really go through and do that. So, I think at the end of the day, people will find if you're going to run it on a statewide level, you're going to have, and that's healthy. That's what America's about, is open debate as part of a democracy, that people can be seen and heard. I just hope that adults' politics and personal views don't get in the way of giving opportunities for students to compete, because we all were lucky enough to get to do that as kids, and I sure want my grandkids to be able to do it as well.
My good friend Darby Haskins, who's the athletic director at Nathan Hale High School, and spent many years with he and Hoover Hopkins, and Darby would always tease me that his job is related to the 3 B's: budgets, buses, and basketball. As basketball is now a 13-month out of the year sport, and this is a joke between Mick, and all my fellow buddies who are basketball coaches. It's interesting. You mentioned at the beginning politics. You mentioned transfers. If you could capsulize it into 3 areas, let's say the politics, the transfers, what would be the third?
Budget issues.
Yep.
I mean, our schools, we have
PTV.
Yeah, I mean, Seattle Public Schools talking about 20 of 80 elementary schools. And sure, economically makes sense, but there's emotional connections to your neighborhood school and everything else. And that's going through schools and school systems everywhere. We're also seeing a trend in increase in private schools, just again, of that separation of community, right? I believe in this, this school believes in this, I'm going there. Or I don't want to be with them people, whoever them people are.
Seems like they all a lot more of that came out of the pandemic.
100%. Yeah, definitely
definitely
amplified. And, we've had some very volatile politics on a national
Mm-hmm.
level. No matter what side you're on, it's been very volatile. And it's been, there's a different decorum
Mm-hmm.
with that. And that's reverberating through our country. And when it's happening at the highest level of our country, the bedrock of our country, being our national government and different interpretations of the Constitution, we're going to sense that. I mean, it's to be expected. And you know what? It's probably healthy in the long run, just very painful in the short run. Because over time, it's going to shake out one way or another, and that's who and what we're going to be. We'll see how this all shakes out. But in the short term, it's challenging. Our job at the WIAA is not to get involved in the politics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our personal opinions don't matter in what we do. Our job is to make sure that all the adults, whether they're board members, parents, or anyone else, people running cities and governments, that we keep students at the forefront and we give every single one of those kids, no matter what their parents think, no matter what they think, the opportunity to participate.
This is Mick Hoffman. He is the executive director of the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association. I am Juan, Cotto, community activist, and also, Bloodworks Northwest, director of government affairs. As someone is just screeching down the street, raising awareness around blood donation, thank you. And I am the host here at Rainier Avenue Radio for baseball, a variety of different sports. Excuse me. And also WIAA Primetime Friday afternoon. We are making music right here at Columbia City Theater. Come check out Make Music Day with Tony B and the crew here. We're really excited to promote this event. Live music performances all day long. That is on Friday. Make music, celebrate Juneteenth. Then on Saturday at the not at the historic Columbia City Theater, that's where we're at right now, at the Atlantic Street Center, big Juneteenth celebration. Thank you very much to the Atlantic Street Center and that incredible group of people who've kept that organization alive and certainly taking an opportunity to celebrate the community and always raising interesting affairs. That is going to be from in the afternoon on a Saturday from noon to 3, actually from 11 to 3. So please go take a look at that. Let's get off the topic. We'll come back to some of these issues in a minute. How do you foresee, and let's go in, because I was thinking about your comments. I mean, some of the school districts in this community have been funded. I mean, there are some wealthy school districts in this community. There's some poor ones, but there's also some very wealthy ones. The wealth has been created by this thing called technology. Yeah. And, I want to ask you this. How does technology play a role in the future of high school athletics? And we'll come back to all the political conversation later as we look about the districts. But let's talk about just the technical innovations that have happened that should be able to raise interest in athletics for our kids.
Yeah, one, accessing high school sports is way easier than what it used to be. And, we're learning how to take advantage of that. So streaming's a huge one. Rainier Avenue Radio does it. We do it through the network, that people from around the country can watch a school or watch a local high school game, which is fantastic. So we have that. We also have the opportunity to do a lot of messaging through that, which we haven't really capitalized on. Ticketing, getting into games is way easier. Electronic ticketing, I know. You got to learn new stuff, and everybody's afraid of being tracked by Big Brother. But if you got a cell phone, you're being tracked anyway. So, but that being said, that some of the functionality, the tools of athletic directors. But I think where we're really starting to see is the coaching tools and training tools. Kids. It used to be coach would have to write up a training program. And you're coaching, I'm coaching. We're coming up with the best. Right. We're going to just go and try to find it, bringing it back and regurgitating it anyway, right? Tweaking it, whether we have any innovative ideas ourselves. But now kids can get around their phone and get an app and do that training. Like it's right there available to them. So a lot more people have access, a lot of free apps with that. I think we're going to see a lot more virtual reality training coming forward. So 10, 15 years ago, we talked about, quarterback strap. Heck, my 8-year-old grandson plays a football game with it right now, right? Goes out and plays golf with it. So, as we learn how to take advantage of that technology, and that cost of that comes down, especially being in basically what we call this the Silicon Forest up here, with the amount of technology that's up here. I think we could see a lot more of that, which for the way our kids live and interact now, like makes total sense. High school football games, they got the screen up on the side, they're telestrators, and they're doing all that. High school football games, like that technology is readily available to our schools and our coaches. So it's way more high tech than anything we ever experienced. And I think it's for the better.
There's tends to be in these technological advancements a growing gap, or a gap. Let's just call it a gap, and hopefully it's a lessening gap between the have districts and the have not districts.
Yeah.
And obviously the private schools have a different advantage because they can go out and raise money for those types of things if their coaches need them. I remember being at Highline High School, and we didn't have huddle. It seemed like every coach in the district had huddle. We were one of the late late adopters of huddle. And I remember my athletic director having a conversation. It's only $800, and $800, to me 12 years ago was like about $1 million.
Yeah.
Where am I getting $800?
More than $800 now.
And with all of the adaptability to it, but it's a necessary thing. I think people now understand the importance of that. But now as we're looking into these types of training devices and different types of things that are hopefully keeping our kids healthier and safer, nutrition devices.
Yeah.
Is there a way that a child who is playing sports, say at Cleveland High School or Chief Sealth High School, can have the same sort of technology advantage that a kid, we believe, at let's say Bellevue High School or Newport High School is getting?
Yeah, I mean, that's the challenge that we've had, whether it was huddle 12 years ago, or it was the access to camps 20 years ago,
Right.
whether it was shoes or, getting a lunch. I think we're closing the gap on some of that, but it feels like we're always chasing our tail. And the good news is, because technology accelerates so fast, the costs come down faster than some of those traditional challenges we once ran. There's like 2 or 3 options now with huddle. Huddle's ingrained in football because they're way ahead of everybody. But in basketball, there's 3 or 4 of them. In baseball, there's 3 or 4 of them. And there's some basic free apps that you can get online. So I think there's a chance, and hopefully, Washington, believe it or not, is a very wealthy state overall with this tech money. And that's why it's so expensive to live here and go to dinner and everything else. So hopefully the people that are profiting so much off this technology and other industries will continue to do the philanthropy. We just had a great one in partnership with a nonprofit and Safeway that we help promote for them, even though Safeway is not a partner yet. But it was $500,000 for summer meals for kids doing summer sports or athletics. And some of the schools said, "This is great. We got $25,000." And so, we're constantly searching to network that way with people to help with those kinds of costs. But I don't want to say we're never going to get there. I think the gap's less than what it once was, but we're constantly chasing. And so the other part that we play as the WIAA is we're going out trying to find fundraising opportunities that they can do that are easy, that will pass the state audits. We just signed with the E-teams. They have that on GoFan. Ticketing, you can ask for donations right there.
Wow.
So people that are tickets, would you like to donate $5, $10, $20? Heck, you might raise a few $1,000s a year, especially if you put a little explanation. This is going to go for after school meals before practice or games. I'll pay another 10. I mean, a high school ticket's one of the cheapest tickets of entertainment there are, half of a movie, and you're going to go watch some kids compete. So yeah, people might throw you an extra 10 or 20 bucks once in a while.
I have to plug the other show that Masvita does with Pat McCarthy. I believe it's called Metro Sports Weekly. I think that is a staple here on Rainier Avenue Radio, and I know that's if they're not still here anymore. I know that's exactly where they got started, was right here on your community radio station. And Daniel, I will talk to you or text me if what time that show is still going, and they've been so successful over the years. Having said that, it's one of the things that I've talked to Pat McCarthy about, and maybe you can you can share your thoughts on this, because the Metro League in basketball, you see an NBA player every season.
Yeah.
Somebody in the Metro League of Seattle will be playing in the National Basketball Association. They will be playing high-level college basketball. 2 years ago, we had 3 of the top 17 players picked in the NBA draft. And I say we, I proudly say the Seattle area. Over the last 20 years, this Puget Sound region, and you're talking about, let's throw in, guys like Marvin Williams out at Bremerton, which is in the region, and the young man who played at the University of Luke Ridnour up at the high school up north of Blaine, right? And which is in the region. I mean, you're talking about a significant number of young people who also come back. I believe Luke Ridnour is now living over in the Issaquah area. They come back to the area, and that only creates more excitement around basketball. Jamal Crawford is, well, I guess considered the godfather of all of this, and he's still here in Maple Valley and connected to Rainier Beach High School. I always told Pat, I mean, geez, we got to expand marketing opportunities and maybe increase the ticket. And it is incredible that high school basketball still is, and it always has been, $6. Back in 1980 when I was running around going to basketball games, and my dad said, $6 for a game. And now I'm still telling Clemente, $6 for a game. It's a great bargain. Have we thought about looking at different ways that we can attract people to come and look at the stars of the future?
Yeah, and that's part of our marketing, and that's probably the toughest thing about, like Pat and Tara in their office with, just a few other people helping out. Here they have, I don't know how many middle schools they're doing, and in schools, athletics, and it goes to our office, you're under resourced numbers wise, right? And so you have your have tos and you try to get tos. And marketing for us, we've tried to bring, at the WIAA level, we do a lot with social media. We have a couple people working on that as part of their roles, and to bring awareness and keep people connected and excited in hopes they go out and compete or go out and watch kids compete. So we raised our ticket prices $1 this year. No one really flinched. Schools and leagues, they debate. They're always worried they don't want to chase fans away. They don't want, a family of 5 coming to a game. That's $30, $25, $20, 10 games a year, 20 games a year. It adds up to be able to watch. And so they're very sensitive to that. And that's what, makes athletic leaders such good people is they want people who love their kids to be able to watch their kids, and but at the same time they have to be able to sustain it. So that's why we're constantly looking for partners. And some of the people you mentioned are very good at giving back. There's lots of companies in this area. Geese is one of our primary sponsors, Geese Credit Union. They do an incredible job of supporting and making things available and helping schools fundraise. They have this affinity card, basically a credit card, and a school can put their logo on it. And any card that card's used, they get a certain percent back. So we have schools that they started on the east side of the state that are getting I think Moses Lake got $25,000 in cash back. There's no added charge to it. It's just profit sharing. I heard Richland schools maybe made $40,000 or $45,000 back, and it's no different than getting air miles for your Alaska card. That you're getting credit back to your school. There's no cost to the retailer, no cost to the consumer on that. So we try to find partners to help supplement that finances to schools as well as to us, because if money has to come from somewhere. So if we can just do it in the course of regular life and business, it makes it better for everybody. So yeah, we have phenomenal talent in the state, whether they're golfers or tennis, or we're very, very fortunate. I don't think we need to do a better job of promoting that side of it. We do a good job promoting students through the year, but people I don't think realize what we really have here. So.
And I tell you, I remember one day I was yelling at the AT&T guy because I was upset that my subscription to NFL Sunday Ticket was now $270 with the discount. And I'm shaking my head and giving him grief. And then a buddy of mine calls and says, "Hey, Juan, I've got 2 Seahawks tickets at $375 a piece. Do you want them?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I want them. I'll send you a Venmo real quick." And I'm sitting there, what have we come to in sports in our community? Hey, go watch a high school game, and you're not only supporting the community, you're supporting the kids, and you're supporting all the efforts of the local folks in your community. We are going to go to break right now. We'll come back in a couple of minutes, and we'll continue this conversation on the future of athletics at the WIAA in Washington State with Mick Hoffman, the executive director of the WIAA, when we return in about 2.5 minutes.
Here with the Rainier Avenue Radio Traffic Update. You can listen to us in your car 24/7 anytime by downloading the free TuneIn app. Once you do, search Rainier Avenue Radio. And remember, do not curse out your fellow drivers. This has been your Rainier Avenue Radio Traffic Update.
My name is Keith. I'm a barber from Tacoma, Washington. When the pandemic hit, it did affect me as a business owner. I have my own personal reasons why I didn't get vaccinated. But I was talking to the doctor, and he was telling me more about what it could do to protect us and our family. I wanted to get back to that once was, right? I do feel safe knowing that I am vaccinated. I just hope what I'm saying is reaching into people's heads to know that this is the best decision for all of us. To learn more, please visit hereforuswa.org.
The Beat of the Fox with Nastiness is back on K-Fox Night Beat.
Yo, what's the deal? It's the legendary Hall of Fame DJ Mick Smack the Ice of UTFO.
What's up? Who you thought this is? This is Sir Mix-a-Lot.
And this is Terry Lewis.
And I'm Grand Mixer GMS.
What's up, y'all? This is DJ Third Degree.
This is JJ Hudson from the High Children family.
Sunday nights from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's K-Fox Night Beat with DJ Nastiness.
Bringing back the memories.
Bringing back the memories.
Bringing Seattle's hottest music.
Bringing Seattle's hottest music. Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
That's right. Noise. Peace.
Do you want to reach out to the Vietnamese community in Seattle? Just advertise in Le Viet Bắc, that is Northwest Vietnamese News, the longest running Vietnamese language newspaper in our region. Go to nvnorthwest.com.
Greetings. This is your host, DJ Neftali, Rainier Avenue Radio.world, the best DJ in the Seattle area. You can catch me every Monday at 8 p.m. on YouTube. Like I said, this is DJ Neftali, the best reggae in Seattle, Washington, the best radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Come on, right?
Do you have an idea for a community project in your neighborhood? You could be eligible for up to $50,000 in funding through the City of Seattle's Neighborhood Matching Fund. Grants are awarded to grassroots projects that build stronger communities, with an emphasis on projects led by impacting Black, Indigenous, and people of color BIPOC communities. To learn more about the Neighborhood Matching Fund or to see if your project meets the criteria, visit seattle.gov/neighborhoods/NMF.
You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Check us out on social media, Facebook and Instagram, Rainier Avenue Radio.world, and on Twitter at Rainier Ave Radio.
Thursday morning. So we have Tony B drifting into our program. It's kind of like this is so much like remember this. We are on air. This is so much like JP Patches when we used to do JP Patches and Josephus Josias had the cartoon pocket. But he was right there. There's Tony B. You used to watch JP Patches? You used to love JP Patches. Yeah. I met Chris Wheatus. The ICU TV. Oh man, that was our favorite. We love the ICTU TVs. We met Chris Wheatus, and I told him, "Boy, makeup's made you a lot of money." And we met. We saw JP Patches, the late Chris Wheatus, legendary performer in our community. We saw Chris Wheatus. He came to St. Joe's Schools. Has to be like in 2005, and he put on a little program for our kids. And by then, he was like Mr. Magoo, man. He was like, "What's 2 + 2? Oh, you don't know what it is." He was like, he was at the end of his career by then. And he wasn't the bright, sunny JP Patches anymore. Yeah, so we were cracking up. Great stories, great man in our community. So yeah. Fun times, fun memories on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio, where broadcasting is just like it was back in the early days of Seattle television before everybody became so serious and so professional in this regional market. And Mick was just alluding to with the advent of the new Seattle basketball franchise. Can we even call it the Sonics? Can they call the new basketball franchise the Sonics?
I think they saved the name.
Did they save the name?
Yeah.
They did. Oklahoma City did take the championship with them, though. I think if they couldn't get this is the way I understood it, if they couldn't get a new team in here by 2013, 5 years, Oklahoma City was able to retain certain elements, and I think they take the championship. So much to our chagrin, when you look up in the pictures in that at Oklahoma City, and I don't know why I want to upset everybody with this who's watching, but the Oklahoma City Thunder are recognized as the 1978-79 National Basketball Association champions. Isn't that something else?
And you can buy it. See, I guess you can buy a championship.
You can. To see Jack Sigma running around with an OKC jersey on. How tragic is that? Ladies and gentlemen, Juan Cotto and Mick Hoffman sitting here reminiscing. And I'm glad that our show is like our show. We're not like these modern media conglomerates. And we promote community projects on Friday here at the Columbia City Theater, 4916 Rainier Avenue South. It is live performances all day long. Make music that makes your spirit feel good. Make music that makes your community feel good. Make music that makes you feel good. Come here and enjoy this on Rainier Avenue Radio. That is going to be at 12 noon, but really it's going to be all day long. So come and listen to music. Come and get a snack from some of the local folks over here. I'm sure they can appreciate the business. They're very, very relatively inexpensive over here. Some great restaurants, great places great eateries. I guess is what they call them now if you're a foodie. And then, of course, on Saturday at the Atlantic Street Center, over near the I-90 junction. I believe that's, don't quote me, but I believe it's 22nd, 23rd Avenue, somewhere over there. If you just turn right on Massachusetts Street and then left and go around the corner, you will see the Atlantic Street Center. And if you can't get there, just turn on Rainier Avenue Radio from 11 o'clock to 3 p.m. They will be celebrating Juneteenth, and learn more about this holiday, this new holiday, recognized in King County. I believe King County employees, if I'm not mistaken, have tomorrow off. And I think that they are on holiday bus schedule. So that's a commitment that Dow Constantine has made to Juneteenth. And so it's going to be a little tougher getting around the city tomorrow, but hopefully people will reflect on this day and another holiday of significance here in the Seattle area. And speaking of which, inclusivity and diversity remain critical issues. Speaking of which, what initiatives are being planned to further promote inclusivity and diversity into the future of high school athletics?
Yes, we just we're going through a restructure of our governance down to 6 WI districts across state.
Mm-hmm.
And half of those positions, the board positions, so there's 6 that are voted on locally, then 6 that are selected by the board specifically to help with historically marginalized communities, and then also diversity within the system, superintendents and that. So there's some intentional things built into the rules. We're continuing to expand our BIPOC AD training programs. We just got another $25,000 annual commitment from Legends Casino and Hotel out of Toppenish Yakima Nation to help with Women of Washington programming, which will help our girls in sports. And that our DEI committee is working in 3 subcommittees right now that for rollout next year. 1, how to address discriminatory. We have a reporting system. We want to give people best practices for restoration, restorative practices once that happens. And then most importantly, the committee's working on how to avoid them, and that will be able to provide that kind of guidance. So we're continuing to try to get out in front. We're done playing defense, reacting to it. Now we want to try to get out in front and not have students have to experience those kind of situations, in addition to enhancing our coaches' training.
Let's go to a question that we had in regards to coaches. I'm sorry, I am the quintessential Quentin Tarantino fan. So if this radio station or if this show jumps around a little bit, it's going to. And I just got a message from Daniel. Daniel, could you please also send me a text on what is at Rainier Beach Community Center? Thank you so much for that. But Joe O'Brien, he has a comment. Thank you, Joe. WIAA needs, and I'm sure you're familiar with this type of comment. I want to get your response on this. WIAA needs to clean up all transfers in order to roster stack. Makes overall for an unlevel playing field for majority of member schools. So let me try to figure that out again. The WIAA, he believes that we need to clean up, the WIAA needs to clean up all transfers in order to make it an even playing field. How, Mick, your response to that?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt there's people that cheat. They cheat in everything. We have rules for it. What a lot of people don't realize is that we're a self-governing state, and that's not a cop-out. That's just the facts of what we do. So schools need to hold each other accountable. So if you go in our handbook, matter of fact, I was dealing with this very situation today, 28.2.4 in our handbook online at WIAA.com. There's a place where it says if a school or an eligibility committee or our staff is made aware of a possible rule violation, then the school, ideally it goes school to start, but I sent these emails yesterday and today to the head of school or superintendent, the principal, the school director, saying it has been reported to us that X, Y, and Z has happened. And then the school has 5 days to investigate, report back to the reporting party. And if the reporting party says, I don't think you did a thorough investigation, I think there's more there, then they can request a more formal investigation, which at that point gives us authority to go in. But it's really our schools holding each other accountable to this. So, you know, they're the ones competing against stacked rosters or what have you. And so that is how the process is set up. And for that rule to change, the member schools have to vote to change. So, you know, I would say if people really believe that one or two schools are the only ones stacking rosters or pulling students, it'd be easy for the other 400 plus schools to change the rule. But they don't change the rule by choice because it may not be as prominent as what some people know about or as isolated as what one person knows is going on. But there's a process. We fully embrace it. We send out those emails and track those on a regular basis. And if schools are doing it, I mean, the schools that I sent them to yesterday reported back and said, look, we were made aware of this a couple of days prior. We investigated. It's factual. We're in violation. Here's our penalty. And they propose a penalty, and then it goes through multiple levels until it gets to the executive board for final approval.
One of my favorite comments in all of sport is by Richard Petty. When they asked Richard Petty, when did auto racing begin? And Richard Petty looked into the camera and his response was just blank. The moment they invented the second automobile.
Yeah.
And one can be cynical. I'm not cynical. Then again, I mean, I think most people know, and I've been very upfront about it. I attended O'Day High School. I attended the Catholic high school. I don't think that in 1979, if we can go back that far, that the athletic department was going to recruit this 5 foot 4 inch, 118-pound kid to come be an athlete there. But through hard work, guile, and perseverance, I became a pretty good player, which I believe that's what sports is about. However, when did high school sports become so competitive? The moment two high schools started competing against each other.
1905. We started as an association in 1905 because local towns started pulling high school teams together to play. And the coaches and some other adults were starting to jump in the games. They're like, hey, that's not fair. We need somebody, so it became a volunteer. So that's why we're a self-governing state, is it started off with people volunteering to enforce the rules. And then in the 1950s, we finally hired an executive director. In 1930s, we became a formal organization. So, I mean, that's the history of how we got here. And you know what a lot of people don't realize is, I mean, we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in legal fees fighting eligibility issues. I mean, we do it. You're just not going to win them all, right? And so I've always said, I don't mind a good fight. I just want a chance to win. And so if we believe it's the right thing and it's fair and people are trying to take advantage of the rules, then, you know, it's our job as a governing agency. That's why we're there, is to enforce the rules fairly. And a lot of times it means fighting them. But what also people don't understand is the rules allow for people to move, physically move, not just schools, but physically move. And if people know people are cheating, they need to report it, right? And what we find about half the time, they are cheating. and we deal with it. And about half the time, they're not cheating, it's misinformation. And we tell schools, a lot of times when we get involved and we send that email, they get defensive, they're scared, they're worried that something's wrong. And what we always tell them is do a good, fair investigation, because the only way you're going to find out if you're guilty is by doing that. And the only way you can fully exonerate coaches or anybody else is by doing a fair and thorough investigation. So that's how we address it. The other thing that is important for people to understand is from 8th to 9th grade, students get to choose where they want to go. And programs recruit themselves. If you have a high quality coach, a coach that stays there for a long time, that a kid going into 9th grade knows she's going to play for that coach for 4 years, or it's a program that treats their students well, that has a good reputation, people are going to go there. But if you've got a program that coaches are leaving because parents are running them out every year, there's no stability, the community won't support the school, kids aren't going to go there, right? So the community and the parents are as much a part of creating that environment as the coach and everybody else. But when everything gets blamed and pointed on the coach and you chase the coach out every year or two, students aren't going to choose to go there as 9th graders. They're going to go someplace where they feel like people care about what's going on and a program they can trust. So, so communities are also responsible for building that desire for students to want to play there.
Well, it would be nuts to go to an O'Day High School, Rainier Beach High School, Garfield High School basketball game and see Paulo Banchero and Clint Richardson jump out and Clint bringing his 83 World Championship ring out there, and Tari Eason and Will Conroy get in the game, and then Jamal Crawford and Baby Boy and all these guys jump in for Rainier Beach. Boy, that would be
fun.
That would be
might be a great fundraiser for the school.
Well, how would the WIAA handle that situation? I would love to see these guys jump in and try to save their programs. Oh my goodness. Thank you very much for the question. It is a good one. Yeah. Mick, is it all worth it? I mean, you guys, you deal with so much stress. A friend of mine, I told him I went to the baseball game together with you a couple of weeks ago, and he said, Mick Hoffman, and I said, well, look, you think this is a Seattle issue. Mick deals with this stuff in 49 separate counties and all these different districts. At all the different levels, I'm sure that you're getting bombarded with information in regards to transfers, in regards to this isn't limited to the city of Seattle. This goes on all over the state.
Small school transfers are huge because little communities, few players. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an equal opportunity position. So yeah, I mean that's what we do. That's what we signed up for. Yeah, at times, is it worth it? Yeah, there's times, I mean, it is stressful because especially it's stressful in that we want to do right by kids, right? And not as just, kids and that whole thing. It's like every single student that participates deserves a fair shot. And some of these, what a lot of people also don't understand about eligibility is there's a hardship waiver process. And, my job is to make that final decision. Now, we have a local hearing and we have hearing officers and we have people who help gather information. And then my job is to take all that information, make a final decision according to the rules. That's the worst part of the job because there's one, understanding the impact it can have on competition. But number two is when you're denying a student the opportunity to compete is not any fun. But at the same time, it has to be done when it's appropriate because that's what the rules ask for and demand. So that's a big one. You talk about if it's worth it. I like to play golf. So I played in a little golf tournament this weekend and I got hooked up with two guys. One was a parent when I was an athletic director down there, and his family and them moved houses the student's senior year, which by the rules you can do, and switched his school where he'd gone to school for 3 years to 4 years. He didn't even go to college because he didn't get any D1 offers. He wasn't that good, right? He's a good kid, good high school player. He wasn't going D1. He's never going to be D1. And so then all of a sudden, his second year, he goes, well, I want to go play. He was able to go to community college. And I asked him, his dad's name, and I asked him, I said, okay, looking back, now that your kid's 30 years old, would you do it that? Was it worth it? Would you do it again? And he said, absolutely not. He said, I thought I was doing the right thing. He said when they were sixth graders, Mick, we played 106 basketball games. Sixth graders. By the time he got to high school, he was tired of playing basketball. And he goes, also realized he wasn't going to be a D1 guy who's going to watch on TV, no matter how skilled he was, how smart. Now, playing all that, right, gave him a little bit of an advantage. But he said, Mick, we sacrificed all our family time. That's all we did were high school sports. So he goes, to answer your question, no. The other guy I was playing with, his daughter was a D1 pitcher, went to a major Pac-12 powerhouse softball school, and was an unbelievable athlete. Like I said, a pitcher. And he said, he goes, I was lucky. I coached that team, and 16 of our 17 girls got Division I scholarships. Now that's a unicorn, right? But he said out of those 16, less than half finished their college career. It was way more work than they anticipated. They didn't have a love for the game anymore because we played too much when we were younger. He said, so I was lucky. My daughter was the best player on the team, so I didn't have to deal with the parent stuff from that. Like, my daughter's my daughter. She's good. She's going to play, right? So you didn't have to worry about that piece. He said, but we played too much. And he said when she was done, she didn't miss it. Like, she enjoyed it. But he said a lot of those other girls, they couldn't finish their career because they were over it. And so, there's one who didn't make their goal and one who made their goal. I mean, like, how many kids do you know that really make it as a legit big-time D1 athlete? And both of them said, man, we'd tell our kids and our grandkids they're going to do it different. So,
it's a shame. There's a commercial I saw for a nonprofit organization that's looking at youth sports, and there's a simulation of a 9-year-old girl, and she's getting a metal draper over her neck. And they say to her, congratulations on winning the championship. And she says, as her speech, I appreciate this medal, and I'm going now. This was my last performance. I'm retiring at the age of 9.
That's awesome.
And it talks about the fact that we are pushing our kids. It's so hard. And I think we're starting to see some of the repercussions of that. And I remember I spoke to Pete Newell, the legendary Pete Newell's son, who was looking at Jim Newell, who was looking at creating different things around basketball. And he said, there's really only 10 years that a kid can really be productive in sports. And you want to start that later rather than earlier. But it seems like we're starting kids at 3 and 4 and 5 years old now.
Andy and Justin in our office, their kids are like 8 and 9 years old. They had to make a decision whether to play club soccer or not. Because if they sign up for club soccer, not only is it thousands of dollars for 8 and 9-year-old soccer because of the travel, but it's 9-month commitment, so they weren't going to wrestle, play basketball. Now think back when you were 8 and 9 years old. Like, whatever sports season was, that's the sports season you loved, right? That's the sport you loved. Heck, go play hockey in the street. Now I love hockey. But because there's this entire industry and entire careers built around youth sports, I make a career out of youth sports, right? So I'm trying to keep this in perspective, but because there's that, and it's all around the goal of scholarships and being a pro, and we know what those odds are. We've talked about it enough, right? Less than 1% are going to make that. I mean, baseball, 7 scholarships for 25, 29 roster spots? You get 7 full scholarships total to split up. Like, they're not getting that information from these people who are taking thousands of dollars from them. That's wrong. That's not good for kids. And they're not asking every kid to go do that. They're asking every kid that's either really good or has the money. And not every kid's getting the opportunity. That's not why we love sports in America.
Well, I can tell you this because I think people know my personality. The people that know me in my last 3 years of select baseball, being an athlete who actually played college baseball, I'm sitting with a number of parents who are under that fundamental belief that all of these kids that we're seeing I'm like, how can everybody on this team be a Division I player? There's not going to be 17 Division I players. And if your son can't throw a fastball past me at 58 years old, which by the way, none of them good. I don't think that you should be signing them up for, maybe a little bit more time in the classroom would be effective.
And I know one of our topics is going to be mental health of students and all that. Think about that pressure on the kid. Not only is everything recorded and put on social media, but your own parents, what's that car ride home? And then the parent who has spent all their disposable income and more investing in their child to be the next number one draft pick. How, of all the people you named that have been outstanding NBA players, how many of them were the number one draft pick? Right? How many of them were all-stars? And how many tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of students have played in the Metro League alone since then? I mean, that's what people have to realize, that when you're putting that kind of pressure on your kid, no matter how good they are, they burn out. We have the Todd Marinovich stories. And there's all kinds of stories over the years, but it happens every single day in every single school because parents don't get it. I mean, let kids play. If they love it, they're going to put in the work. If they want to do it, support them 100%. But man, to push them and to be 10, 11, 14. I mean, I'd asked Andy and Justin, I'm like, so how was that conversation with your 9-year-old? They're like, it's terrible. but we're just asking. We're hoping they say no, but if they really want to do it, we want to support them. But we're not pushing them to do it, right? I mean, that's not good for kids.
No. You brought it up, and we're going to touch on this in terms of mental health in our next part of our conversation. Once again, I want to touch bases with you. This is such an important topic, and I hope that we are able to get this show out to many of our athletic directors and many of our groups throughout the state of Washington. And I just really appreciate, Mick, your candor and your sensitivity to this, because this is such an important thing that we need to bring up in regards to whether you are a select athlete, whether you are an athlete playing high school sports. And Mick and I have both coached, and I want to make this clear. We're not breaking anybody's dream. Yeah, there was a time where I wanted to be a professional athlete, and I dedicated that 5 to 7 year period of my life to doing that. And it was an exciting pursuit. And although I was not successful getting there, the lessons, the work ethic, the drive have certainly lasted to me a lifetime and have allowed me to pass that on to my children. And the same thing with my wife, who was a competitive college runner. But the bottom line issue is that we realize that not every athlete is going to play Division I sports, and that's we want to make that clear, and that the lessons that they are learning by pushing themselves to be the best they can be are still very valuable lessons. And I think one of the things that we talk about in this program, and certainly one of the things that Mick and I talk about personally, is the investment of that time and money. Is there a better way to do it that can make it equitable for more kids? And that's what the WIAA, in my opinion, if I'm saying this correctly, that's the challenge that Mick and the group down in Renton have. The challenge that we have, and I want to chat with everybody, and Daniel, let's make this correct and see if I get it right. The Juneteenth celebration on Saturday, I was telling everybody it's going to be at the Atlantic Street Center. It's going to be at Rainier Beach. It's going to be at the Rainier Beach Community Center, which is just south of us here on Rainier Avenue. So I apologize for that mistake. Hopefully you went into the show long enough, and hopefully you can read that sign. It's going to be down at Rainier Beach Community Center. Is that correct, Daniel? Make sure that I'm right on that. And I believe I am. So that's going to be Saturday. Please go down there. Friday is going to be here at 4916 Rainier Avenue South. That is the Make Music Day, and please make music with your heart. It is 3:57. This has been such a fun show that we have simply run out of time. I want to thank Mick Hoffman for coming up here on Tuesdays and having this conversation, and I want to thank his staff, Andy and Justin and Cindy and Janae, for coming up this year. And 9 months goes by in a snap of a finger. I mean, it really does. And I remember my cuddly little sophomore is now a big lugging junior in our house. And my baby girl is now 11, and she had a solo the other day in the Seattle Girls Choir. Mick has proudly become a grandfather. And, there's a lot of things that go on in that 9-month period of time as we get to the end of the school year. So we want to thank all of you for participating in this. Mick, I can't thank you enough for coming down. Appreciate you doing that so often. And We will touch bases with you when we touch bases with you. Again, Juan Cotto and Mick Hoffman, WIAA Primetime. Have a great summer.